Welcome to the Start Something Show. Join world-renowned experts, change agents, and everyday folks who have done the amazing. All here to help you start something incredible. Now it's time to step out, live your perfect day, and create a legacy with your host, Tina Dietz.
Well, hi there, super starters. How you doing? It's Tina Dietz. Welcome to the Start Something Show. And today we have one of my very favorite people on the show, Marci Shimoff. Marci is a New York Times #1 best-selling author. She's written a ton of books, actually. She speaks internationally. And we were just talking about how she got the opportunity to go to Rome and be in a room with all these Nobel Prize winners and visionaries from all around the world discussing how to make the world a better place. And I thought, my goodness, I would love to be a fly on the wall at that event. So looking forward to talking with her in the show today. But before we get to that, let's have a moment of Don't Be That Guy. So the Don't Be That Guy tip this month is all having to do with networking. You know, networking is one of my very favorite things to do because I'm one of those people that just loves people. But I don't love all people. So don't be that guy. Don't be a business card pusher. So, you know that guy in a networking event who kind of walks around the room and just hands out business cards, kind of like a Vegas dealer, right? Like you think he is like playing blackjack or something like that. He just shoves his card into your hands, maybe says his name, and then goes on to the next person. Don't be that guy. Those cards are just going to go in the garbage. Take the time. Even if you only talk with a couple of people, it's going to be worth your while to develop much stronger relationships rather than shoving your cards at somebody and causing basically a reaction that's going to have them turn around and throw it right in the trash. All right. So that's our Don't Be That Guy segment for this month. If you see someone who you think, oh my goodness, don't be that guy, then post it on Twitter, hashtag Don't Be That Guy, or shoot us an email on the contact page at thestartsomethingshow.com. And if we use your Don't Be That Guy moment, then we'll acknowledge you on the air. And who we have with us today on the Start Something Show is Marci Shimoff. Marci is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, a world-renowned transformational teacher, and an expert on happiness, success, and unconditional love. Marci's books include the runaway bestsellers Love for No Reason, Happy for No Reason, 7 Steps to Being Happy from the Inside Out, and 6 titles in the phenomenally successful Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul series. Her books have sold more than 15 million copies worldwide in 33 languages, have topped all the major bestseller lists, and have been on the New York Times bestseller list for a total of 118 weeks. Marci is one of the best-selling female nonfiction authors of all time. Marci is also the host of the national PBS television special called Happy for No Reason and is a featured teacher in the international film and book sensation The Secret. Marci has inspired millions of people from around the world and is dedicated to helping people live more empowered lives and joy-filled lives. Her websites are happyfornoreason.com and youryearofmiracles.com. Marci, thanks for starting something with me today.
I am so happy to be here with you, Tina, and with everybody here.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, let's jump right into it. We are here dedicated, of course, to helping people get going, reduce their fears, and leave a legacy. So take us back to when you were first starting something. What were some of your first steps? What were you dealing with?
You know, can I start by actually taking you back to the very beginning? Because
sure, take us back as far as you'd like.
It's really important to get a perspective on why to start something. I mean, it's one thing to just start something, but I think the most important thing is that you're starting the right something. And I believe that we're all put here on the planet with a purpose. We each have a reason that we're here. There's something that we're supposed to do. And very often it's our challenges that become what we're here to do. So, you know, I teach about happiness. And the reason I teach about happiness is that I was born unhappy. I came out of the womb with existential angst. I was really,
oh my goodness.
And I had great parents. I had great circumstances. Everything on the outside was fine. But I had this kind of dark cloud around me. I remember as a kid just feeling the sort of suffering in the world and feeling really unhappy. And I was unhappy throughout my growing up years. But I was very lucky. And I was lucky because I had a father who was the happiest person I'd ever met. He passed away at age 91. And every morning of his life, he woke up with a smile on his face. And his motto was, any day that I'm breathing is a good day. And I remember one day I was about 19, and he and I were driving down the road together, and I looked at him and I said, Dad, what's your best advice for me for life? And he thought for just a second, and he said, honey, just be happy. And I threw my arms up into the air in frustration. I said, Dad, that's easy for you to say. You were born that way, but I wasn't. What do I do? And he thought for another minute, and he said, honey, I don't know. And that's when I realized some people are just born happy. I wasn't one of those people. And I decided in that moment to dedicate my life to finding what I could do and what you could do, what anyone could do to be happier. And that's when it really all started. But I will backtrack just a little bit before that. When I was 13, I went to see my first motivational speaker. It was a man named Zig Ziglar. I'm sure many people are familiar with Zig.
Absolutely.
It was 1971. And for those of you who are doing very quick math, I'll do it for you. I'm 57 years old. And I saw Zig walking the stage, inspiring people. And that's when I got a clear vision of that's what I wanted to do with my life. I knew it. That's what I saw myself doing. I remember going home and telling my parents, I want to be an inspirational speaker. And they didn't even know what that was. There was no such thing back then. And they were really disappointed because they wanted me to be a dental hygienist. My father was a dentist, so they wanted me to be a dental hygienist.
Just a little bit different.
It's just a little bit different. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not what I was here to do. But my mother teased with me. She said, honey, you sure talk enough. You might as well get paid for it. So here I am. I'm now 19 years old, and I have had the vision when I was 13 that I wanted to be a speaker. I'm 19, and I'm clear that I want to speak about happiness. And that's when it all started. And I decided that I would get an MBA in training and development that would get me started in my speaking career. And I started taking those. So I just mapped it out. What are the steps I need to take? I need to learn how to speak. Well, there was no way to do that back then. So the closest thing was to be in the field of training and development as a corporate trainer. And that's really where I got my start. So I know that was a long answer to your question, but that was how it all came together.
It's really a great picture to see. You know, we talk a lot about how our purpose is really, fundamental to who we are. It's more of a process of discovering it than it is of creating it. Right? So that's a really perfect example of that very principle that you saw it and you knew. And I'm very curious how you ended up seeing Zig Ziglar when you were 13, to be honest.
I honestly don't know. I don't remember who it was. Somebody must have taken me. Somebody's parents must have taken me to see Zig Ziglar. I don't even remember. But I was very fortunate. And I will let people know, most people don't get their vision of what they're supposed to do with their life when they're 13 years old. It doesn't matter how old you are right now. You can get clear about what it is you are here for. And generally, it's not going to be what people tell you that you're here to do or what you think you should do. That's not it. It's the inner calling of that's for me.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's something I wanted to explore a little more deeply with you. What about folks who are in their 30s or 40s, 50s, 60s, people living a long time, having a number of careers and all of that. People who are looking at changing their lives, how can they tap into finding their purpose?
Well, and that's a really good point you bring up. You could be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s. I don't think it's necessarily that we have just one thing that we're here to do. I feel like my career has changed numbers of times. I never thought that I would be an author, and I'll tell the story about how that showed up in a bit. But at every turn, I think it's important to check in and see, am I doing what I'm passionate about right now? And I love using tools. I use a lot of tools and techniques to help me with various things. And the tool that I use to help me figure out what it is that I want to be doing right now is a simple tool called the Passion Test. It was developed by dear friends of mine, Janet and Chris Atwood. And they have a free online program to figure out what your passions are at thepassiontest.com. And that's what I would use. And I do that, by the way, every year to make sure that I'm still aligned with my passions.
I've done it myself. It's great work.
Oh, good. Yeah. You know, Tina, I learned a formula when I was in my early 20s, and it was a formula for manifesting. I learned it from a coach of mine named Bill Levacy. And it's 3 steps. And I believe that all manifesting of anything comes from these 3 steps. And if you've got a pen and paper and you're listening, I recommend that you write these 3 down. I love them because they rhyme. And the 3 steps are intention, attention, and no tension. Intention is being very clear about what it is that we want in life. Attention is putting our thoughts, our words, our feelings, and our actions behind it, putting our life force, our energy behind it. And then no tension is relaxing, being in a state of happiness and ease so that you're not so attached to the outcome. And what I've seen is that you have to have all 3 of those steps in order to really manifest. And for most people, one of those you're really good at, one of them you're pretty good at, and one of them you're not very good at. And that's what you most need to learn to really get to that next level in your life. And that was true of my career progression. Tina, would now be a good time to sort of share how this career progression went?
Yeah, let's hear the story of it. I know as you're talking, I'm thinking about it. Well, for me, my big downfall would definitely be the no tension part of it.
Well, that's my big downfall too, Tina. And I will tell you that in my experience in working with people who are Westerners from the Western culture, that generally is most of our downfalls. Because no tension requires us to really be in a state of such happiness, what I call happy for no reason, such ease, that it doesn't matter to you whether that thing that you want happens or not, that you're okay either way. It's kind of counterintuitive, but you have to be in a state of I'm okay no matter what, and then the magic happens. So let me back up to share sort of my journey and how it went with this intention, attention, no tension piece. So I was really clear, as I said, on my intention. I was 13 years old, and I saw myself traveling around the world, inspiring millions of people. That was my vision for my life. So attention. I put a lot of attention on it. I got my MBA. I started working in corporations doing training programs on communication skills. I studied self-esteem because I wanted to teach self-esteem. I went to and studied with Jack Canfield, who was the creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul, but back then nobody had heard of him. He was just teaching self-esteem seminars. And I trained with him. So I was putting a lot of energy and attention on things. And I was very driven, so I put a lot of energy into it. But I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And I was working really hard, and I was burning out. And I felt like I was hitting my head against the wall. And one day, it was in 1994, a dear friend of mine, who I've already mentioned, Janet Atwood actually, came to me and said, Marci, you are burned out. You look terrible. Actually, she used different words than you look terrible. But I won't repeat those. She said,
good friends are the ones who are really honest with us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She said, you look awful. I'm going to take you away on a 7-day silent meditation retreat.
7 days.
That's what I said. I looked at her and I said, you are crazy. I don't do silence. I'm a speaker. I don't think I've been silent for more than 2 hours in my life. She said, no, trust me, you really need this. And she was very persuasive. So I went along with her on this 7-day silent meditation retreat. Well, on the 4th day, I had really settled in, and I'd gotten to that state of no tension, possibly for the first time ever. And in the middle of one of my meditations on the 4th day, a light bulb went off in my head, and I saw the words, chicken soup for the woman's soul. And I knew that was it. I knew that that's what I was supposed to do, and then that would be the vehicle to put me in front of millions of people. And at the time, the only Chicken Soup for the Soul book that was out was the original one. So it was like this epiphany. Now, the only problem with this situation, this scenario, is that I still had 3 more days of silence.
Oh, did you make it?
Yes, I had just had this great epiphany of my life, and I couldn't tell anybody. But as soon as the silence was over, I ran to the closest payphone, and I called up Jack. This was before cell phones, and I said, oh, my God, I've got it. Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. And he said, what a great idea. And he called up the publisher, and the publisher said, what a great idea. And a few months later, I had a contract in the mail. And about a year and a half later, I had my first book come out, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. And it went to #1 on the New York Times list that first week. And Tina, I absolutely know that the only reason that happened was for those 3 steps. Intention, I was clear. Attention, I put a lot of energy behind it and I was prepared. And no tension, I let go. And I went into a state of surrender, of no tension. And that's when all of my best ideas have come. So I really invite people to look at those 3 steps in your own life and see, where are you good and where do you need help? Where do you need to focus?
Brilliant. And it's so good to keep it simple like that with those 3 steps, because I'm reflecting on my own process and all of that. And it's true, no one ever says, I came up with this fantastic idea today sitting at my desk working.
Right.
Or, in the midst of chaos. It's always, I was in the shower.
Right.
I was on a long drive. It's in the, even not having a 7-day silence retreat, which is so incredibly powerful, but those moments of where your brain just starts to unwind. And that's why we have to make sure that the attention on what we want also has to include the attention on things like our habits, which I know you discuss a lot,
right,
and our purpose.
The no tension piece. And, Einstein said that all of his great ideas came when he was going for a walk or when he was doing the dishes. We have to put our attention on what it is, what our intention is, and then we have to let go. It's also a great little phrase is high intention, low attachment. And,
yes.
And here's the thing. I know that most people can't go away on a 7-day silent meditation retreat. It's not practical. But we all can do mini retreats. And here's what I recommend. 1 day a month. Take a day of silence and an electronics fast. That means no electronics for 1 day. No cell phone, no computer, no television. Just a day. And if you can, be in nature and just shut off. Shut off the other high-stress place where most of us live. Just relax. Don't look for your ideas. Just be in the flow of life and watch what comes to you. Even if you can only do a half a day of silence, do a full day of an electronics fast and a half a day of silence. And, just things will shift for you, I promise.
That's so great. That's so great. Well, let's go back to a little bit more about you and your journey as this has unfolded for you over time. Because I know you've been studying happiness for many years, and it's a really rich topic. Because people think, you're happy or you're not, or, all of that, but it actually has a lot more depth as a topic for that. But we're not happy all the time. And I know that all of us who have been on this journey of creation and being leaders and stepping out in front of the public eye, we have, there's some ups and downs. So what setbacks or failures, and I know a lot of people don't like to use the word failure, but we just want to take the charge out of it here. What have you had to deal with, and how did you deal with that? So
I think we each have kind of our own little set of lessons. This life is a lesson life. We're all in school, and we each have our own individual curriculum. And my curriculum has been self-doubt. I've been challenged with self-doubt throughout my career, throughout my life. And it's not that it goes away. It's that you learn it and it comes back at a higher level. It's like it spirals. And so I've had to deal with self-doubt for many, many years, and I continue to deal with it, but I've learned ways to deal with it that I think are more productive. And I've learned to really focus on the wins that I have, the things that I've done well. And as I focus on those, I find that I get more of those. There's, the whole law of attraction thing is that like attracts like. So when I focus on what is working, I tend to get more of what is working. When I focus on what I know I can do well, then I tend to feel like I can do more things well. So my self-doubt seems to just die off more and more. Focus on what you do well. Yes, absolutely. Really, really key. I teach this program called Your Year of Miracles, and it's about creating a miraculous life. And each month we have a different theme. And I think the most important of all of the themes is the month on self-love. I think self-love is the basis of all of our success. And I know it can sound really airy-fairy, but I mean it very practically. love is a physiological state that can be measured. We could hook you up to brain monitors, heart monitors, and take your blood and see if you have the neurophysiology of love or the neurophysiology of stress. And there are certain ways to develop the neurophysiology of love, and including self-love. And when you do that, life kind of takes a quantum leap. Things start to flow, because when we don't love ourselves enough, we don't feel worthy of the things that we're wanting. We energetically block them. We push them away when we don't open up to feeling worthy. And it's very subconscious. So that to me is the number one tool that I've seen that everybody needs to work on to open up to greater success and whatever it is that you want more of in your life.
Exactly, because if we don't feel like we're worth it, then when the opportunity comes up, we don't see it.
Exactly.
It's invisible to us.
Exactly. Or we see it, but we don't have the courage to go for it.
Exactly. Can you imagine if you hadn't done the attention portion of that 3-step process, and when you had that incredible download about the book, you had said, but it'll never work.
Right.
It not would have only deprived us of that book, which is an incredible book, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, but that was actually the first book in the entire Chicken Soup for the Soul series besides the original, was it not?
It did. It started the whole series.
Yeah, it started the whole series, which impacted millions of people around the world.
Yep.
So every one of us has that ability, that kind of like inner spark to make that impact. We just don't know how it's going to look.
And that's the other thing. You don't know how it's going to look. I could never have written the script that had me selling 15 million books. I never thought of writing a book. I just knew that my purpose was to inspire millions of people around the world. I didn't know the vehicle. And that's the letting go piece, that no tension piece. I believe we do our part, which is intention and attention. And the universe, whatever you want to call it, creative intelligence, the divine, God, universal life force, whatever, that meets us halfway. And that's the part that shows us the how, the way. The way will appear when you know the what.
I love that. So if you were just starting out today and you had the knowledge that you have, but not the resources that you've developed over the years, what would be some of the first things you would do to start something today?
So I would have to go back to my 3 steps, and let me tell you the specific things I would do. Number 1 is I would get clear about what your soul is calling you to do. And I would do that through taking the passion test. I would also do that through something called automatic writing, where you can sit and write the question at the top of the page. You know, what's the most important thing for me to do? What am I here to do? And then start automatic writing the answer. And automatic writing means you don't stop, you don't cross off as you go, you don't edit. You just do stream of consciousness writing. And do that 6-7 days in a row, and your answer will show up for you. You've got to follow your heart. So that's number 1. Number 2, attention. Make sure that what you're doing, your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and your actions are aligned with that intention of yours. And then number 3, make sure that you take regular times to put yourself in a state of no tension, whether that's meditating, taking walks in nature, taking an electronics fast, making sure that you go into that state of no tension where you connect with the bigger energy of the universe.
Oh, I just want everyone to just breathe that in and take that in. And for goodness sake, go out and do that this week. We're going to have a lot more from Marci in our backstage pass at thestartsomethingshow.com. So join us over there, and we're going to dig in some more to Marci's wisdom and experience and her work on being happy for no reason. Marci, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Tina. It was an honor to be here.
My pleasure.
Start something with purpose. Start something with freedom. Start something now. Go to thestartsomethingshow.com, join our community of superstarters, and get your perfect day planner pack, a free resource to help you create the life you've dreamed of living. Take action now, and we'll see you for our next exciting episode.